Welcome to Andy's Garage. I'm Andy Phillips. Today I'm going to show you how to realign your steering wheel. Let's go ahead and get started. Now what I'm talking about is if you're driving your vehicle, okay, so you know that you're definitely going straight, you're not on a slight turn, anything like that, you're going perfectly straight, and when you look down at your steering wheel, it's slightly to the left or to the right, where normally it should be, if you're going straight, your steering wheel should be nice and level and straight. If it's slightly off and you're going straight, that's what needs to be corrected, and that's what we're going to talk about. Now, if you've just been in a situation where maybe you hit a curb or you did work your suspension with your tie rods, things like that, it could just need an alignment. In those cases, you need to take it to get an alignment done. That's not going to solve your problem, what we're talking about. What I'm talking about is if you've done any work where you had to remove your steering wheel, or if you purchased a car used where somebody did something with the steering wheel to do some work to it, and maybe it wasn't put back straight, and what's happening now is the steering wheel is out of alignment from the car driving, that's what we're going to be fixing. So in this video, first I'm going to show you, we're going to look at the tires right now, and I'm going to show you what we're talking about, and then we're going to take a look at me driving it so you can see me driving straight and what we're looking at. So let me get the camera in here. We're going to take a look at these at the wheels. You'll see how they're perfectly straight. Then we'll go inside the vehicle, look at the steering wheel, and then we'll take a look at that clip. Take a look here. You can see perfectly straight. The wheels are straight. So we're going to go inside the vehicle and I'll show you what the steering wheel looks like, and then we'll take a look at me driving it so you can see it in action, and then we'll get this thing corrected. So coming in here now, as we saw, the wheels are completely straight, right? So I'm sitting in here. This wheel's turned slightly to the right, even though when we brought it in, we were driving straight. So now the goal is to get the steering wheel completely level. But first, let me show you right now, when I had it on the road, you're going to see me driving where I show we're on a perfectly straight country road. You're going to see the cars going straight, and you're going to see what the wheel looks like. Take a look. So now that we saw that, we're going to get this thing aligned. So the first thing that you're going to want to do with your vehicle, if you have one like this one here where it has the airbag in here, we're going to have to disconnect the battery first because you don't want that going off. So I'm going to disconnect the battery, and then we'll come in and take this apart, and then we'll go ahead and get it aligned. You really don't have to take the positive one off. I do it anyway, just, I don't know, just to make sure the battery's completely disconnected. But technically, if you remove the ground, that's all you need to do. Now with the airbag assembly loosened, that should come right out. Pull this out, rotate it. This particular vehicle here is a Kia Rio, so that's what we're fooling with here. But remove these clips, pop that off. But the key thing is, as we saw, you want to disconnect the battery. Last thing you want is this thing going off on you. So there we go. Disconnect that here. Undo this. And then now the airbag assembly and the horn is out of the way. And this is what we want to be looking at. Let me get the camera in here and I'll show you. Here's your steering wheel retainer nut, and then you have your shaft right in the middle. So as we saw already, this is lined up straight. So we know that the shaft is lined up straight. So what I'm going to do is I'll get a black marker, and we're going to make a straight line up and down on the shaft. And as you can see, the steering wheel itself is off. So we're going to also center a line here up and down on the steering wheel. So that way we'll line up the line on the steering wheel with the upright line on the shaft. And if we have them in line with one another, that should now align our steering wheel to be straight. So to do that, I'm going to make the mark, and then we're going to remove the retainer nut so we can pull the steering wheel off the shaft, and then we'll line the two up, put it back, secure it down, torque it properly, and then our steering wheel should be aligned. Let's see here if you can see that. You can see the black line we put in. It's lined up perfectly with the vehicle. And then now we'll do one here on the steering wheel itself. There should be one here. And you can see how off that is. Those two lines need to be in line with one another. So let's remove the retainer nut and then get these lined properly and then tighten back down. Here's a better shot of it without the glare. You can see how off that is. So the center lines on the steering wheel itself will line up then with the shaft. That's what we want to do, and then we'll torque it back down. I'm going to be using a breaker bar because sometimes these retainer nuts can be very tight. But the first thing I want to do, I want to try to get this wheel to lock. There we go. Bring it this way. I don't want to hit the windshield. There we go. And you might be wondering, now that we've moved the wheel out of place, how are we going to how are we going to get it lined up? Well, since we put those lines on there, it'll still work. So let me get a close up so you can take a look at it. Get that out of the way. And you can still see our lines, right? So you can see the line on the shaft and on the steering wheel assembly. So we're going to have to still turn it a couple rotations that way to line it up, and then we should be good. So let's pull this out. This whole assembly here can come out. So we can slide that out, and then we'll line up those lines accordingly. Slide this out, and then we're just going to turn it just a little bit to line it up with the lines, and then slide it right back on. Get it lined up. That looks good right there. Let me get a close-up so you can see how it looks right here. Here's the line that we put on the steering wheel assembly right here. Here's your top, your bottom. Perfectly in line now with what we had on the shaft. So that should line our wheel up perfectly. It's nice and lined up straight. So the next thing we're going to do, we're going to put the washer back on there, put the nut back on. And it's important that you torque your steering wheel properly. So you want to check and see what the torque specs are for your particular vehicle. That can range anywhere from 30 to 50, but you want to make sure that you check it, and you do want to torque it properly. You don't want to be fooling around with it getting loose. So we're going to torque this one on here, put everything back together, and then we'll be back to take a look and see how it lines up. Okay. This one is torqued properly. Nice and solid. I'm going to get the wheel to unlock. That way we can get it leveled back up. Turn it back to where it needs to be. We'll put our airbag assembly back on. Then we'll tighten everything back up. There we go. That's solid. Everything is good. Let's reconnect the battery. That way we can get things running, and then we'll check out and make sure it's fully aligned properly. Put your positive on first if you've disconnected both. As mentioned earlier, I do both. You don't need to, though. As long as you take the negative one, you're fine. Okay. Want to make sure you have it nice and tight. I have the wheel completely straight here, the steering wheel. Let's head out and take a look at the tires and see how those wheels look, but they should be nice and straight as well. And then we'll start this thing up, back it out, and try it out on the road. Right here, look how straight that is. Let's come here on this side. Perfectly straight as well. Okay, so we just saw it. Everything looks nice and aligned. We saw that the wheel is nice and straight and centered. The tires as well, nice and straight. Let's take it out on the road, take it for a spin, and see how it looks. Then we'll wrap this up. Okay, well, that wraps up this video. As we saw, everything is nice and aligned properly. As we talked about at the beginning, if you have had, if you did do some work to your suspension, or maybe if you hit a curb, things like that, your alignment could be off. You don't want to be adjusting your steering wheel in those cases, because you want to take it and get the alignment done properly. This is more so if you've had the steering wheel off to do some work, or if you purchased a car used where somebody had messed with it and it's off that way. That's what we're talking about here, is getting that aligned properly. As we saw, quick and easy. Get the shaft. Once your car is perfectly straight, put a nice vertical line on the shaft, and then get your center lines on your steering wheel assembly, and then just pretty much match those lines up, and you're good to go. That thing is centered and aligned properly. So I hope that this video was informative for you. I hope it helped you out with any issues you're having with your steering wheel and getting it straightened out. Please send me any questions and comments. I would love to hear from you. And as always, I appreciate all the support. So please like the video, subscribe to this channel, and I'll see you next time.